So to begin with, we're just going to kind of talk about DOIs and what they are. So if you've seen a DOI before, it's probably been in a scientific paper. What they are is they're a kind of link, and the intent is for it to be a permanent, unchanging link to some kind of resource. So again, if you've seen this before, it's probably as a scientific paper. That's a very common way you might use them. And so this is a resource that is really great if you're a scientist trying to write a paper and you want to make sure that your references don't change over time. So if you want more information about that, we actually have this DOI homepage, which again is a link that's in that message that just got sent in Slack chat. So there's lots of information on here. What are DOIs? We have a video tutorial. How can you find pre-made DOIs? All this stuff for questions and missions and what you can do. But what I'm going to be talking about today is a very specific feature that MAST offers to create DOIs. So it's very useful if you've written a paper and say you're writing something on exoplanet spectra and you've just followed all of the steps that Jenny walked us through. And now you want to point someone to that data. Well, how are you going to do that? How are you going to make sure that they can actually see all of those things? It's not a trivial process to do. So what you can do is create a DOI for that data set in MAST. So all of the observations that you've downloaded, all of the files that you've downloaded, you can create a DOI so that when people click on it, they'll open all of those files in MAST and they can easily download them. This is a great way to promote reproducibility, and it's also a great way to acknowledge MAST as an archive and the mission that you're taking your data from, especially if you weren't the person to propose it. And actually, this is mandatory if you are a JWST grant recipient. So this is something that you'll get an email from us about, and you'll have to go through and actually make a DOI. So that's what we're going to walk through today. To get to the portal, you can actually click this gigantic MAST DOI portal button. I believe I already have the tab open. Yeah, so. And to get to this point, you will need to have a MyST account. You can open the portal, but to actually go through and search and add things, you'll need to make sure that you're logged in. So to begin with, we're going to start by searching with program ID. So there's only a couple of options that we have here in the upper left. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger for everyone. A little better. So in the upper left, we only have a couple options. One of them is program ID, so that's what we're going to start with. And you can enter your program ID or multiple if you separate them with commas. So we're going to do 2733, which is one of the programs we dealt with earlier, and we'll search. And you'll notice this is identical to the regular portal. The only thing is that from here you can't actually download any of the data. But otherwise, all of the features that you would expect. AstroView is here if you wanted it for some reason while you're doing this. You can still filter by mission. You can still filter by instrument. So, if I only wanted the MIRI observations from this proposal, click here as before and just get the MIRI observations. Again, everything that you expect, editing columns, all that stuff is available to you. And what you can do is use these checkboxes here to select the files you want. So I'm actually going to deselect this first one because this is from our Office of Public Outreach. It's that initial release image that came from the Southern Ring Nebula. So we don't want that one. We'll just take all of the science data and we'll click add to our DOI basket. And you can see that shown up here. I now have 10 observations in it. So let's just click to see what that looks like. And you can get sort of a short little preview of what's in your basket. Because I'm zoomed in so far, we cannot see here. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a Create DOI button. I apologize that this is so small. But if I were to select all of these and click Create DOI in the upper right-hand corner, we'll get this little Enter DOI metadata field popping up. We are actually not going to fill that out, though. We're going to continue searching. So this is just one way, by program ID. You might also want to use a different option to search by object name or position. So let's do the same thing. Let's say we're really interested in the Southern Ring Nebula. We are writing a whole paper on this. So we'll search for it. and we're going to use NGC 3132 for the name. And we'll hit search again. And you might have to be patient for a minute while it loads and tries to find, there we go, all these observations. This is a pretty popular target. So we've gotten all of our results, which 486 of them, and we might not need all of them. So this, I really want to demonstrate what it looks like if you have a very complicated list of results and you want to filter through these. So let's try filtering by mission first. So here in this left box, we have all of the missions, show 6 more. So there's quite a few missions that have observed this target. But let's say that in our paper, we just use the Hubble Space Telescope data. That's what HST stands for. We can click on that to filter it down. And let's keep scrolling through our filtering options. We could pick an instrument. We could pick a filter. I'm actually going to pick a waveband. So let's say that, again, for whatever reason in my paper, I just use the UV observations. This is a very convenient way to just select those observations that were made. And as before, you can use these checkboxes over here to add observations to the basket. You can also click this little button. I don't think I mentioned that before. So you see, it just added this very first observation to my basket. But I want all of them, so I'm going to go ahead and add them all. And there is one last important method for searching for these observations so that you can create a DOI graph. And that is the MAST observations by observation ID. So this is something that is a little bit, it's not something that you would just casually search. You're going to have these observation IDs ready beforehand. Those, come from these actual observations here. So I might be able to pull that up. Yes. So these observation IDs are kind of baked right into these files. So it would be some sort of long alphanumeric sequence. So for this example, I actually have one already pre-selected, which is also in that message that was sent on Slack if you're curious. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. You would probably use this if you just had a very short number of observations that you had found, that you had filtered down, and it was just easy for you to copy paste and do this. So let's go ahead and search for that. And there it is. It's pretty quick because there's only one matching observation, which is exactly what we would expect. So this can be very nice if you just have, one more thing you need to add to your DOI. So let's go ahead and do that with the button. And that brings our total up to 18. And there's actually a second feature to this that I think is really important and is very helpful if you have a lot of data or if you've used programmatic access to get your data. So for example, in the exoplanet spectra notebook, there really isn't a fast way to do that search other than to do it programmatically with Python the way Jenny showed us. So that means if you then want to create a DOI for all of those observations, it's going to be difficult and perhaps a little bit tedious to go through the portal and find all of those things. So that's not the method that I would recommend that you do it. What you can do instead is print off those observation IDs that you got programmatically, and then you can upload them to the portal. So we didn't go through it in the live demo today just for time reasons, but in those notebooks that are available to you, there is a cell after everything is completed where you can save all of the observation IDs to a file. And so what I'm going to be doing right now is using this upload observation ID list tool to upload that file. So I already ran the cell. I already took all of the observation IDs out from that notebook that we did today. So I'm just going to upload. So I had it right there, right? It's just obs_IDs.text. You can either do a comma separated value list, or you can just put them all on separate lines. So in this one, I just have them all on separate lines. Upload. Take a minute for it to find all of them. But here they are. So this is incredibly convenient. You don't have to search, you don't have to filter, you don't have to worry about it. All of the data that you used is now here and available. So let's go ahead, add all of this as well. We've added everything that we wanted to our DOI basket. So Apologies, I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit here to get over to that create DOI button once again. Whoops. Okay. Sorry for zooming in and out, everyone. I know that's not fun to watch. Okay. And from here, you're going to want to fill out your enter DOI metadata. So this is really important. It's important that when people are looking for your data, that they are confident that they've arrived at the correct place. So you're going to want to put your DOI creator, your name. That's a mandatory field. Data set title. So this might be observations of Southern Ring Nebula. And then you're going to want to put a description or an about this data. It is optional. I highly, highly recommend that you put something in here. It's a great way to let people know that they've arrived at the right place, that they're actually seeing your data, or just to let people know what it is in case they happen to stumble across it in a paper, or very helpful for people to know what kind of collection of data that they're looking at. So again, it won't force you to fill this field out, but I would highly, highly suggest it. And I'm actually not going to click create DOI because if I do, it will immediately create the DOI. And I don't want to get a whole bunch of duplicates of those today. But what I can do instead is we're going to go through a DOI from a paper that uses some JWST commissioning data. Once again, I sound like a broken record. This is a link which is available in that Slack post if you wanted to check out the paper, or if you wanted to follow along as I click on this DOI. So I'm about to open a new tab here. I'm just pasting in that DOI link, and this is what, and this is what someone who clicks on your DOI is going to see. So they'll see the DOI name up here at the top. They'll see the DOI creator. So, you. They'll see when it was created, the title that you input, and then they'll also, in this case, I kind of picked a bad example, right? About this data is blank. We don't enforce it, but it's a good idea to let people know what they're looking for. And I think most helpful for people is going to be this display data, view data for this DOI. So what happens when you click on this link? Well, it'll take you to the portal, and all of the data that we just spent time loading into our basket and doing, and filtering shows up. So this is incredibly convenient for people if they want to take a look at your data or try to perform the analysis themselves. All they have to do is, click one link to the DOI and then click a link to get into the portal, and they're here. They have access to all of the data that you used in your paper. So this is a really, really great way to promote reproducibility. It's a really great way to acknowledge the archive and to acknowledge the mission itself that collected the data.